Hello everyone, my name is John Laney. I'm on the KCA board, and I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being involved in what's happening in South Maui. It's important that we are involved with what's happening, and you're going to find out a little bit more about that in a few minutes. I have a couple of announcements. We have the Maui Food Bank Drive. We have a basket for it, so when you come to one of our meetings, if you can bring some food and put it in, that's really appreciated. And then this is the anniversary of 1 year of KCA having our meetings at the Pro Arts Center. So we're very pleased. Pro Arts has been very helpful in so many ways, and as you can see, it's a very nice place to meet. And Lynn is going to come up and say hi. Lynn is the person in charge.
General Manager.
Hi everybody. If you don't know me yet, my name is Lynn. I'm Executive Director here at Pro Arts, and I always just like to take a moment in introducing, in case any of you have never been here before. We are a non-profit performing arts venue. We keep the space available for community use for things like this. Tomorrow evening we are having Maui AIDS Foundation will be putting on Transgender Day of Remembrance commemoration tomorrow. That's going to be at 7:30 for anybody who's available. We also have a whole roster of exciting entertainment. We've got John Cruz on Thursday. We have Move Me Dance, Heels Dancing happening on Saturday. We have got a magic show with David Karaya, which is a regular series of ours, on Sunday, and this is just a small collection of what we do. We also have a full theatrical season. Our next big theatrical show is, as you might have noticed, we just started decorating for it, Every Christmas Story Ever Told. As you can see, the theater got a little decked out today as part of that. And the matinees are more family friendly. Evenings are about 13 and up is about right for that one. And there's lots of other exciting things happening here. You can check all of this out at proartsmaui.org by following us on social media. And huge thanks, as always, to all of our supporters, our community partners, and our sponsors, particularly of our Access for All sponsorship. I know a lot of you are very involved in the community. So if you don't know about this program, it allows us to give buy one, get one free, or entirely free tickets to those in financial need, because we want to make sure the arts remains accessible here on Maui. And thanks to our sponsors, Arnold Jacobson and Jennifer Myers, as well as the County of Maui's Office of Economic Development, we were able to give unlimited free tickets to anyone displaced by the fires. So if you know anybody who needs a night or out of entertainment or anything, just send them our way, have them give us a call, we'll get them a seat. Thank you so much for being here. We love hosting you guys, and it's a lovely anniversary of having you all in the space, so thank you so much for being here.
And then we are always looking to add members to KCA, and if you have people that might be interested, we have an arrangement with Pro Arts. If a new member signs up, they get a free ticket or $30 to a Pro Arts event. So tell your friends, get them to sign up, and then go to a Pro Arts show with them, all right? Okay, we are doing a new thing. We're starting it tonight, and I want to talk to you about some things that are happening in South Maui that we're all very interested in. You know, people ask me, what is it that KCA does? And you know, one of the things we do is we provide information. We have meetings like this where you get to meet people that are doing things in the community. You get to find out the different things that are happening in South Maui. But another thing that we do that not a lot of people are aware of is we are fighting for a better quality of life for South Maui in all kinds of different ways. So, for example, there are right now about 4,000 homes that are basically permitted to be built in South Maui, right? Over the next 4-5 years, okay? 4,000 homes in South Maui added to what we already have. Now, imagine this in 4 or 5 years when those homes are built and occupied. Right now, when you drive on the Pialani Highway and you get to the Lapoa stoplight, you know you can get stuck there for quite a while, right? And I've timed it. If you get there right as it turns red, it's 3.5 minutes before it changes back to green. And if you're there during some peak times when a lot is happening, then you can sometimes get stuck for 2 cycles, right, before you get to go through, and then, you know, the KCA, if they're back, you know, that whole thing, right? So imagine that there are 4,000 new homes with just 1 car each. That's 4,000 new cars. And let's say it's January and there's tourism and all that stuff, right? So, do you want to be at the Lapoa stoplight with 400 more cars? That's just 10% of the 4,000 new homes that are getting built. So if we have 400 more cars on the road, it's going to be a big problem, right? And, you know, wherever you like to go, whatever park or beach you like to go to, imagine 200 or 400 more cars wanting to go and park there and enjoy the beach. We are not at KCA anti-development, but we are for infrastructure before more development. With me? Yeah. So we want more roads. We all need more roads for our quality of life. And then what's another big reason to be concerned about 4,000 more homes being added?
Water.
Yeah, you got water?
Fire.
Everyone aware of the water restrictions? Okay. Yeah. And then the fire thing, right? Obviously egress in case there is an emergency. So these are the kinds of things that we are paying attention to. And where those things get fought over, where we advocate, is in back rooms, basically. The county council meetings, we meet with our politicians, we meet with county people, and it's at these committee meetings. And so we go and we show up and we testify. So it's all by Zoom, and you go and you check in and you testify. And at some of these meetings where we're asking for the infrastructure that we need, at some of these meetings, the developers have more people testifying than we do. Can you see the issue? So we're starting a new thing tonight, and we want your help. Can you put up that slide, please, Angel? Okay, so we are starting the South Maui's Voice team, and we're asking everyone to consider joining this team. What it means is that you will get 1 email a month, just one, and it will tell you one of the issues that we want testimony for, right? We'll tell you what it is, and we'll tell you the points, the talking points, and you can do it in your own words, or you can use our talking points. And then you'll send in 1 email, or we may ask you to provide oral testimony via Zoom if you're comfortable doing that, right? But we need South Maui to show up at some of these meetings. They need to hear from more than 4 or 5 members on the board.
Yes.
And so if you would consider giving an hour or so of your time once a month, we'll give you something that you can send in to help what we're doing to fight for a better quality of life and more infrastructure in South Maui. Sound like a good idea? All right. So if you would, please raise your hand. We will pass out a form, and you can go ahead and sign up. And to make me feel good, I need more hands raised. All right, and Audrey is passing out forms.
I'm already on it, right on it.
You will at least get to know what's happening a bit behind the scenes and how you can help. You don't need to testify every month. You don't need to do it all the time. If you don't agree with the thing that we're pushing for, you can just pass. On the pass out, on the form that's being passed out, there is a QR code. It's a little code. You can click on it with your phone, and it will take you to a sign-up page. It will take you to a page. It's a bit different than this, but you'll be able to sign up. Or if you just fill in, all we need is your name and email address, legibly please. Phone is optional. You don't need to worry about that. We're going to communicate through email. And you can get more involved and help us create a better future for South Maui.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I came in a little late. How is this different from the updates that the KCA Community Association gives us anyway by email?
Okay, I didn't quite hear. If you could.
How is this in addition to what KCA Community Association already puts out in emails?
Yeah, this is going to be a bit different. Once a month, you'll get an email about something that you can provide testimony for, written or oral. And sometimes KCA does send out a message asking for people to participate, and we want to really increase the number. If we have 50 plus people testifying about something, it's going to make a lot bigger difference than 3 or 4. Right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so you can just pass those in as you have it filled out, and we'll move on. But thank you very much for your considering this and your participation. It's going to take a lot of us to, fight for what South Maui needs. Okay, the next issue that we need to deal with is the board of directors. So every year in October we nominate a board of directors for KCA, and in November we verify or vote on the slate of directors. So this year for 2025, we need you to vote if you are a KCA member to approve or disapprove the board. The board is exactly the same as it was last year, so everyone is an incumbent, and what we're asking now is for you to vote by raising hands if you approve of the slate of board of directors for KCA.
Who are they?
We don't know who they are.
Who are they?
We don't know who they are. You don't know who they are.
I know who they are. I don't know their last names. But yeah, you want to come on up if you're here and smile at people. There was, and we will explain it next year as well. Okay. So, there are a few people missing, but we have Rob Weltman, we have Audrey
Lester.
See? I know their first names.
Andrew Beer,
Bob Schamberg.
Patricia Stillwell.
Mike Moran.
Randy Wagner.
Adele Ruck.
All right. A round of applause, please. All right. Thank you very much.
Question regarding the board. Do we have any native Kanakamo'olis on our board?
No. And again, next year in October, there will be another opportunity to nominate people and to get on the board, or at least to put in that application to get on the board. I would like to say, I've only been on the board for a year, and I really had no idea the battles that were being fought and the things that the board was doing to make South Maui a better place. So if you see a board member, please thank them for their service, because there is a lot happening and they're taking a lot of time to work for our future. Don't thank me, because I'm just the pretty face of the organization, but everyone else, really, if you have a chance, really thank them for what they're doing. And then, I think a point of order, don't I need to ask if anyone is not okaying the slate of the board of directors?
I stand reserved. I'm not.
Okay.
I don't know that. Yeah.
That's fine, yeah. All right, anyone, just raise your hand if you are not approving the slate of the board of directors.
Just like. Yes, please.
All right, so it's passed. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So wait, point of clarification, did other people run or no one else ran? Like this?
They didn't make it clear.
We did not get an application for the board of directors this year.
Okay.
And if you're interested, talk to me after. I'm happy to talk to you about it.
No, just clarification, thank you.
Yeah, sure,
Thank you.
sure. Okay.
Oh, John,
Yeah.
add to that though, with all this enthusiasm, so excited to see the enthusiasm about the board. If you wanted to get more involved, you could certainly apply to join one of our committees. And that will get you more aware of some of the things that we're dealing in and and then you figure out if you want how much more you want to be committed to the board. So you can submit an application on the website for any of the committees.
Wonderful. And is there a timeline for the committees to be appointed or no? Just
No.
the year, a rolling?
We have a governance committee, we have an infrastructure and transportation committee, we have an amazing, remarkable design review committee that actually has to go through all of the stuff the developers submit to try and get their permits. And we give a lot of input that way. We have a public relations committee, we have a parks and recreation committee, and we're willing to create other committees once there's enough interest or people involved. Yes?
Sir, I don't know your name, but I'm Paula. And the
Okay. Aloha.
Aloha. Okay.
I'm a resident of KCA since 1963. So I am considered a kupuna here. I have seen so many things happen here. And I just wanted you to know that you need to include kupunas in your committee or in your board, because they are so knowledgeable on what has happened and what can happen and what will happen. I don't think any of you or many of you realize this. But we don't want what happened to Lahaina to happen to us. And we have to start here. And the gentleman here mentioned that we're going to have an input on all these concerns that we have. This input should have been a long time ago.
Exactly.
It's past due. But let me tell you, sir, some of our kupunas, our seniors here, have no knowledge of how to get online or make connection. So that's your responsibility to make sure that they are aware of that. Even if you have to go to their home and help them, because some of them do not have children or anyone at their home to help them. So this needs to be addressed now. So anything you want KCA to do, it needs to begin now. Not next week, not tomorrow, now. And what he mentioned about the once a month, that's not enough. That is not enough, because while the council is, or the council or the planning commission is going all over this, they're beyond or may have decided what they want. We can't allow that. We can't. So we need more own input. I'm one myself that wanted to get in and testify. I couldn't get in. One of the members from KCA told me it took him half an hour to get in. And he's way younger than I am. So think about that real carefully. We do not want Kihei destroyed. And I want to live long enough to see what I want to see for a long time. And I think you want the same.
Yes.
I believe you really do. So let's make it happen now. And don't forget the Bukunas. They have a lot to share.
All right. Every so often, KCA presents to a couple key volunteers in the community the Willy Willy Award. And I'm gonna read what the Willy Willy Award is about so that you understand it, and then we're going to have the two recipients come up.
It's
Willy
Willy Willy.
Willy?
W is correct.
Thank you. Willy Willy Award is an honor given to individuals who demonstrate exceptional community service, particularly focused on protecting and preserving the natural environment of Maui, specifically embodying the spirit of the endangered Willy Willy tree, a native, you notice that? I picked it up real quick. A native Hawaiian plant that is increasingly rare in its natural habitat, essentially recognizing those who go above and beyond to Malama Pono, take care of their community and land, right? So tonight, Michael Reyes is going to do a whole presentation, and so you'll see how great he is. But first, we'd like to give the award to Michael Reyes. So if you would step up. He has been working with the environment in Maui for years. And he's done all kinds of wonderful things. You're gonna see some of them tonight. So Michael, if you'd come up and grab the mic.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, KCA. It always feels nice to be just to have people observe like what we're doing in the community and doing for the environment. But I wanted to take this opportunity to thank some of the people that I've worked with that have supported me, and helped me. And that's Katie Woodbury, my coworker. And then Richard Silva, who kind of gave me a chance when I was fresh off the boat and first moved to Maui. And then Haleakalā Ranch has allowed me to do a lot of projects on their property, and so I want to thank them as well. And then certainly all of you for coming out and being engaged in your community. And so thank you, I really appreciate it.
Very much. And then next we have Robin Knox. And if you haven't heard Robin Knox, years ago when I started coming to KCA meetings, Robin Knox was there talking about water quality issues and talking about wetlands issues. So Robin has been a warrior for our environment as long as I have heard her name. So Robin, if you'd come up.
Hello. It's been 20 years. That's how long you've been hearing my name. I realized that the other night that it'll be 20 years in 2006, and that's more than half of my professional career here working as a professional water protector on Maui. And it's work that I don't do alone. Richard Silva caught me off the boat too. He's really good that way. So I wrote the first South Maui watershed plan with the help of more than 100 people from mostly KCA, more than 40 meetings. And as a community, we told the story of our watershed and gathered data and made plans. And Michael carries that work on today with, finally, we're starting to get implementation. So this is how long it takes, you know, from 2006 to 2024. I got to work on, it was a dream come true, work with coral reef researchers on the injection well research. We published a paper in 2010 that caused EPA to act. And that, as you probably know, ended up in a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court and strengthened water protection all over the country because of Maui people, because the Dire Coalition, which was all the community coming together to support what needed to be done. So I want to join those voices that are saying, lift your voice. It matters. It may take decades. Sometimes people get, you know, discouraged and they're like, oh, it doesn't matter what I do, but it does. It just takes time. We're talking about government, we're talking about natural processes, you know, it takes time. So please, lift your voice. We have a lot of work left to do.
All right. Michael, you want to come on up? Michael is going to give us a presentation about some cool things happening. And afterwards, there will be time for Q&A, so if you have questions, you'll be able to ask them.
This one on? Oh, no, it is working. Okay. I think the screen is just magically going to switch over to my computer. So we'll see. But I'm going to be talking about, oh yeah, Angel's got it. She's helping me out on it. So I'm going to be talking about R1 water reuse. And so, as I'm sure all of you know, currently, and Robin touched on this, all of the KCA wastewater treatment facility, all of that water is injected in the ground. Some of it is reused by golf courses and the southern portion of the Bay Area Ag operation, and then there is some used by some of the housing developments, newer developments. But quite a bit, and we're talking about millions of gallons per day, is injected into the ground where it slowly percolates out into our nearshore coastal waters. And so, you know, this is such a waste of an opportunity.
Michael?
Yeah.
Can you just explain to everyone what R1 water is?
Sure. So R1 water is when they are processing wastewater, so when you flush your toilets or whatever, what they do is they separate out pathogens and things of that nature, and they clean the water to a certain grade of water. You wouldn't want to consume it, although I've been told you probably could and you wouldn't get sick, but this is not potable water. It's still nutrient rich, and there's probably some other issues with it, but it's perfectly acceptable to use it to grow crops, and certainly in the ways that we're using it, which is to grow dryland in a forest. And so I'm just going to go through and show you some of the things. We have two projects currently that we're doing with R1 Water. They're both on Haleakalā Ranch, and just Malco of the wastewater treatment facility. We usually go up through the tech park. There's a gate there that we go up. So this is the location of the KCA riparian rehabilitation project. And, oh, good, it shows. You can see my mouse. So this is the southern Bay Area ag operation, and they are on R1. So they're all of their crops are growing with R1 water. What we did is we fenced off 7 acres, and we fenced it off so that the deer wouldn't eat our dryland native plants. We planted 3,000 dryland native plants, and I'll show you guys some of the types of plants that we planted. But as you can see here, each one of these green rows is an irrigation line that's been planted with dryland native plants. And so here's a before and after. This is extremely dry country. It only gets 12 inches of rain a year. As you know, you all live in KCA. And so this would be a drip line, and at each one of these white dots, we're putting in an emitter. It's a 1 gallon per hour emitter. And so we're utilizing, the county has 2 1 million gallon R1 storage tanks that are just on the south side of the Bay Area ag operation. And we have access to that water, and so what we do is we just have timers that turn the water on, and it's on for an hour each day, and so each day we get 1 gallon emitted at each one of these locations. And so you can see the before and after and how much of a vegetative response we get. Now, it kind of looks like it's mostly grass in that picture, but it's just because the plants are young. But we've had like very little mortality, actually. It's been amazing. I know Vernon's been out and Rob's been out, and I appreciate both you guys coming to check it out, and maybe some other people in the audience have been as well. This project there's the dryland native forest component, which is important, but we really want to also look at the pollutant load reductions that we're getting from this project. And so if you look at like nitrate, 56 pounds removed per year. And then this is through the water that's injected into these injection wells. This is just the nutrients that are in solution in that R1 water. So by putting it on the land, we're making sure that 56 pounds of nitrate or 69 pounds of total nitrogen are not going into the ocean. And so, when we're putting these nutrients back on the land, there's 2 ways by which we're removing those nutrients from the water. So obviously the plants use the nutrients to grow, which is great because we don't have to use fertilizer or anything like that. The fertilizer is in the R1 water. But then the other thing is that there's bacteria in the soil. And so by applying it to the surface and allowing that water to percolate through the soil, all the bacteria that are in that soil are able to metabolize those nutrients, make them more readily accessible for plants to uptake, to use. And so it's getting those nutrients back into like the nitrogen cycle or that natural nutrient cycle, as opposed to just having them injected deep into a well where they just move right out into the ocean that way. So the other thing about this project, it's a linear project. It's 7 acres running along KCA Gulch. And so as I'm sure everyone has seen, we have during these big storm events, especially these Kona storm events, all of this sediment-laden stormwater that finds its way to its closest gully or gulch, and then discharges into the ocean, and many times discharges onto South KCA Road and things like that.
Question, what is T, total N and total P?
Total N is total nitrogen, and total P is total phosphorus.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And so, you know, what we really want you to think of is like when we do riparian rehabilitation or riparian protection, which it just basically means protecting the stream, the banks of the streams. What we're doing is that acts as like a silt sock. So when you do have all this sheet flow coming off the land and it's about to go into that gulch, instead that stormwater slows down, all that vegetation kind of captures that sediment, acts as a filter before that stormwater enters into the gulch. And so we're able to look at using Stubble, which is a model that's provided by like USDA, NRCS. And it's just a spreadsheet evaluation tool, it's a modeling tool. But for this project, almost 9.7 tons of sediment captured on the land as opposed to discharging annually from this project. I mentioned some of the native plants that we've been using. We get all of our native plants from Native Nursery up in Kula. But some, this has been a learning. We've learned a lot of lessons from this project. Some things have done really well, and others not so much. But Pohinahina, A'ali'i has done really well. It's a plant that produces a lot of seed, and so we're hopeful that this project will be a seed source for Maui for dryland native plants into the future. Maho has done really, really well. That's the Hawaiian cotton. Vili Vili has also done really well. Viki Viki, we actually have a Vili Vili tree growing a Viki Viki vine on it, which is very exciting. We have Nio. We have one Nio that's found a leak in the water system, and it's like the thing's like 15 feet tall. It's crazy. We did try to plant Kauaia, which is like a dryland koa, but it has not been doing well. We planted Veo, and it was doing amazing, but then we got some pigs into the project. And pigs, I did not know this beforehand, but pigs love Veo. That's the first thing that they ate in our project. And so we also tried to plant the caper, the Maipilo, and we didn't have a lot of success with it. And then also the Ohe Makai, we did not have a lot of success. I'm going to skip through some of these, but I did want to just show this one last slide. When we're thinking of like a green break, which is certainly important for fire resiliency in Kihei, you can see outside of the project and inside of the project. And this just shows how locked in the soils are inside the project versus if you had a storm event outside, how easily that sediment is just going to find its way to the nearest gully or gulch. So I don't want to take too much time, so I'm going to just get to our next project. This is exact on the opposite side. So if this is the dryland native forest rehabilitation project, and this is Keokea Gulch here. There's a solar farm, and then directly on the other side of this, and this is actually north. We just fenced off 22 acres and just installed more R1 irrigation infrastructure. And for this project, what we're trying to do is mitigate for the axis deer damage that's already occurred. And so you can kind of see in this area, in the aerial image, you can see this scar here. It's actually much worse now. But all of leeward Haleakalā is denuded by axis deer. They've just eaten us out of house and home. There's no vegetation holding soils in place, which is why we get our mud floods, right? It's just, you get a Kona storm comes in from the south, dumps a lot of ton of rain on the landscape, and it just, all that mud just sweeps out. So what we'd like to do is see if we can use R1 water to mitigate for the access deer damage that's already occurred. And so this project is just in its infancy, and I was telling Rob earlier, we wanted to be watering all last week, but now the county is changing out the meters on the 2 million gallon tanks, and so they cut the water off. So we only had 3 days with the water on so far, but I just wanted to show, even in that 3 days of water, you can see we have these like green polka dots that are happening, where the vegetation is already responding. And like, I don't know if you can see in this picture, you see these like little white, kind of like things that aren't very happy. Well, given the water, that's actually Ilima, which is a native plant that immediately swells and becomes like a vibrant plant again, just with a little bit of water. So we think that we could actually make a huge difference by just placing water on the landscape, a little bit of water on the landscape. And so the intent of this project is a pilot project. We know that we're injecting millions of gallons of water a day, just dumping it into the ocean. We know it's negatively affecting our coral reefs, our nearshore waters. When instead we can be having, whether it's community gardens or mitigating for access deer damage, or growing food, whether that's crops or that's cattle, instead of shipping in our beef from the mainland and going to Costco and having it be beef from the mainland, why wouldn't we have it be beef that we're growing here on Maui? And so this goes to fire resiliency, food resiliency. All of this can be provided with water that right now we're just dumping in the ocean. And so this would be a scale up of the project that we're doing now, where we're proposing to. It's fine. I appreciate it. I can talk.
I'm sorry, guys. I thought it was you guys. You guys can spank me later, young man.
You guys are cutting me short.
Sorry.
So what we're proposing to do is to put a reservoir up at roughly 1,000 feet in elevation. And so this is the wastewater treatment facility. If we could somehow pump this water up, and Vernon does have ideas of how we could pump this water up, that water could then be distributed at a landscape level. So at that point we could distribute this water, and then we're talking about we could make a big difference. We could start to address a large denuded landscape and reestablish vegetation that would lock in soils, so that we're not getting these mud floods. And so, just kind of closing, R1 water could be used to reduce erosion by reestablishing that vegetative cover, contribute to groundwater recharge. Robin's organization, they've been doing so much with wetlands, these coastal wetlands. And if you think about, wetlands are that interface between your groundwater, your aquifers, and your surface water. And if your groundwater is low, you're never going to have water in your wetlands. And so by making sure that our aquifers are recharged, you're minimizing that distance between your wetlands and that groundwater. And then obviously using R1 water, and that's R1 water that we're taking out of the injection well. So that's going to improve our coastal waters, our coral reefs, our water quality. And then increasing food security And then obviously fire prevention. If you can imagine just driving down P-Line Highway and there being like verdantly green pastures, you feel way more comfortable about your fire resiliency than the way it looks now, which is like extremely dry. So I'm going to end with that, and again I want to thank everybody for your time yeah.
Could you tell people a little bit about the Haleakalā Foundation?
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, thank you. So my day job is as a ecologist with Maui Environmental Consulting. But I also work with Haleakalā Foundation, which is a nonprofit, 501c3, and just as a background, the board of Haleakalā is Tova Callender with Ridge to Reef, and then Amy Hodges with Maui New Marine Resource Council, and then Jake Freeman, who's an engineer with CDF Engineering. And we had realized that a lot of conservation work, important conservation work, is occurring, but it's occurring on conservation land. You know, you have to take a helicopter to get there. It's like up in up country, and that's all wonderful work. And like the watershed partnerships are doing amazing things. But we identified the need to do conservation work on agricultural lands as well, and because so much of what we see is not conservation land, but we needed to do conservation work in those arenas as well. And so that was kind of the background behind Haleakalā Foundation. We don't necessarily just want to work in agricultural lands. Anywhere that we can, Malama Haleakalā, literally, we want to do. But because there's so much great work already occurring by the watershed partnerships, we said that we would try to tackle that conservation work that's happening, that needs to happen, lower down. And so thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate it.
Michael, thank you so much for your presentation. Can you also explain why we're not already currently using this R1 water? Like, what's the holdup? Because it seems like common sense that we would be spreading it all over already. So why isn't it already being utilized?
If you didn't hear, she's asking why aren't we already using the R1 water already?
Yeah, and thank you for your question. There is some R1 infrastructure in place already, the purple pipe, as it's referred to, and so the southern portion of the Bayer Ag operation is on R1, as is the golf course, and then some of the housing development. And I know that the county is planning to install more R1, and so I don't think that I don't want to give the impression that all of the R1 water is being injected, because it's not. It's just installing infrastructure is expensive and it takes time, and then there's permits and easements and all of these things, and so R1 expansion, I think everybody is on board. It's just a matter of it's going to be difficult and expensive to do it.
Mike, I've got a question,
Sure.
and I'm sure everybody can hear me. I can. But Haleakalā Ranch, you're speaking of Haleakalā Ranch portion, Mauka, Intie, Mauka off the Ilani Highway?
Yeah.
Okay, my cousin raises cattle there, Brandon Baltazar.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you guys put in these pipes for these larger companies, are the taxpayers paying for this, or is it through a grant? And I appreciate that they're doing this, because that's something that we've needed forever and ever and ever. But
So this is my wish list. This is not happening. So this is me, and I'm glad that we're clarifying. So this is the small project that we're doing. That's 22 acres. That is happening now as a pilot project to show what we could do if we took it to scale.
And this pilot project, is it paid by taxpayers?
No.
Or by grants or your organization?
No. So this is the 22-acre pilot project.
Right.
We
How
get
is
our
that funded?
we get our funding from the Hawaii Department of Health,
Okay.
Clean Water Branch, and then also from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for doing what you guys do.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
We have another question here. Go ahead, Rob.
Sorry, Rob. She's just asking in the back where this is located, and I'm gonna go back to one of my first slides because I think that's probably the best way for me to show where it's located. And let me see. So this is KCA Gulch that runs down, and it used to tap into Waimahaihai, but it actually now KCA kind of heads this way and then dumps into Laie Wetland. But so one of our projects is here, and then the 22-acre one is here. And so if you say this is the tech park here, this is the wastewater treatment facility is here. And so this is north, this is south. So does that
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Mike has talked about using the R1 water to restore native vegetation, which gives us so many benefits. But there's another aspect to this too, and that connects to what John said in the beginning, that we're short on fresh water and getting shorter and shorter, and there's less and less rain every year, and more people, and more housing that's needing more and more water. We have a huge amount of potable water which is being used to irrigate resorts in South Maui, especially Wailea, Makena. And if we're able to divert and use some of the R1 to do irrigation, that would free up a lot of this fresh water, which is coming from Central Maui and coming from wells. The reason why it hasn't been done is cost, because you say that drilling to place the pipes underground from Kihei to Wailea would be very expensive. And one of the innovations that I think Michael and other people have come up with for this project is that in some places it doesn't need to be underground, it can be overground. And that saves so much money. There's still the cost of pumping, but things are moving forward. But anyway, that's one of the reasons why it's not currently being used.
So there was a question about the R1 water. So in several years already, the R1 water is available, like Maui Sunset, Kauhale Makai, I think, all the way to Koa Lagoon. So it's out there, all the schools, the Loa Drive. So eventually when they expand North-South Collector Road, there is a connection to continue, but that's mainly just north for now. Still gotta figure out how we can spread that out south direction. But it's out there, it's being used a lot.
Thank you so much.
And we've been told at KCA that there is close to 2 million gallons of R1 water that is being used, and close to that much that is not being used. And so the county is working, as Rob said, on getting some of it to the resort so we can have more drinkable water. And then there's a lot of discussion going on about where and how to fund using the rest of it. All right, question?
Yes, my question is, I thought there were injection wells down at the resorts like the Grand Wailea. So that water should be already there from injection wells. I don't know if it's commonly known but that's what I've heard. The dirty little secret.
I can't speak to this, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That is not.
Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, Robin. Robin, right there, right there.
Hi, not really a question, but I'd like to continue the discussion that's been started here because it's important. So the water, the R1 water, at first everyone thought of it as a problem. We're injecting it, it's killing the reef, this is a problem. But that R1 water is an asset. It's a public asset. It's a public trust resource. And there are many public interests as were brought up tonight. So I think it's great that we have these ideas about and pilot projects to see what really works, but it's a complex puzzle. So we have to look at things like, what are the public trust uses that are required by law, and are those being taken care of? And then the cost, what is the cost to the public? So I think we do have to get innovative. I think we do have to try to restore our watershed the best that we can. But it's a big picture of our water, and there's a lot of interest. So, I hope this discussion that started tonight will continue, and I think there were some really good points brought up.
Thank you.
I think this would tie into the water, but I'm curious how 4,000 homes got decided on.
See that.
And I tried getting on committees, but I was told that my views were different, so they didn't want me.
Okay.
And how does this water project fit in with the growth of homes, placement, feeding it? And we already have a project on KCA, and I think that's a business complex, right? Business stores, it's not homes.
No, it's affordable.
It is affordable housing now, it changed, great.
A few things, yeah.
Okay, so, but again, there's all this interreaction of water and building and white, yes, we need homes, but do we need to squeeze every bit of land out? And how are they gonna be developed and priced?
What's your name? Gillian brought up a whole other meeting topic, right? So that would be a whole other meeting, and we will have, hopefully next year, a meeting on the housing and what's happening and what you can expect. So there's a lot of moving parts.
Excuse me, but you did say 4,000 have already been. No, wait, I didn't say that.
Thank you.
That's a little bit of an extreme statement. When Wailea was first made into a project, they had a vision for what their plan was. It's a project area, and they had an entitlement for a whole lot of stuff. So now A&B has sold the majority of that land to another company called Ledcor, and they are planning to develop. It's really over the next 20 years, so it's not going to be 4,000. So that includes the Wailea 670 project, 670 acres next to Maui Meadows. Those numbers include the Wailea development area, which is now owned by Ledcor, and they're looking at all those projects at one time because we wanted to see the impact of all that at one time. So their environmental impact study is studying everything at once, but it's not going to all happen at once. And then there's the McKenna projects, and those already have their entitlements. And then there is Wailea Golf, which is at the beginning of trying to investigate possible. And all this stuff is South Maui, most of what I've just mentioned, way south, and most of it is for high-end, off-island owners. So, yeah, it's a problem, and there's no new infrastructure. It's a huge problem. But then there's also projects here. There's like the new senior housing that's going in. You see it on the highway. There's, yeah, next to the existing senior housing, yeah. Right across from where this is, yeah, right Mackay of where his project is. below the wastewater treatment. And then there's the KCA, which is affordable housing, which Kraus Company gave to another company called Three Leaf, I think, that's being developed right now. And then there's an affordable housing project at the foot of Kilohana on South KCA Road by Kiavakapu. Those houses, those are for, yeah, those are for sale houses. The others are for rent, those other two I first mentioned. And then there's the Pilani Promenade area that we would like to see as housing, but they're threatening to be commercial. Yeah, so there's, that's some of it.
Okay, I'll do this and then I'll be back to you.
So, Michael, I heard you say that this is your wish list, correct?
Yeah, so this is, we're doing the pilot project to show, hopefully, our intent is to show that we can address denuded landscapes using the R1 water. We don't think this is the only use of R1, and the nice thing is that there's so much that, we absolutely want to see Wailea off of potable water for their landscaping. And we do think that this should go all the way to the Northern Bear ag operation so that they're off potable water as well. And so, we're not offering this as the only solution to R1. We just think that this would be a great solution for the mud floods and to mitigate for all the axis steer damage. And so this would be one of many uses for R1 that could be implemented in South Node.
Okay, and so my question to you is, what can we do to help you get this? I mean, if this is your wish list, how do we make this happen?
Testify.
Yeah, I mean,
I testify a lot.
Testify.
I mean, that's a great question. I think R1 water is going to become more and more of, if it's not already, I mean, it's going to be more and more of a hot topic. And so, for those of you who support this sort of project, just be vocal, or I guess testify, or whatever. And what I had asked Rob is, because our 22-acre project is still in its infancy, if I could be allowed to come back in 6 months to show you what we've been able to do, instead of just green polka dots, I'll be able to show you. Ideally, we'll have done much more by then, and then at that point, because we are just right there, I'd love to have people out. I mean, I don't know that Haleakalā Ranch would allow me to have all of KCA out at once, but certainly the intent of these projects is to be able to show with the community what we've been able to do.
Have you guys approached Maui Pono? They use a lot of water.
Yeah, I mean, so with Maui Pono, they may have access to the Kahului wastewater treatment facility, which is some of that R1 water. And then I'm sure that with the new wastewater treatment facility that's proposed for Waikapu, that they'll advocate or try to access some of that R1 water that's generated. But they may be too far north from the KCA wastewater treatment facility. It's kind of like, if we can get into the Northern Bear ag operation, then we can just keep going from there. And so I would love if we could get the pipeline to go all the way to Maui Pono.
So Michael, I mean, this is really important to all of us. There's no question about that. And I guess what I'm trying to get to here is, what can we do, whether it's KCA or individuals in this room, to help you get this, to move this forward, so this can actually, you can get your wish list perhaps activated.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like working with the county, is it the Department of Environmental Management, with Vernon?
Vernon. One of our boards.
Another component is the Department of Water Supply, and just saying, hey, why are we using potable water when we have all this R1 water?
So is this just about money? Do you need money?
Yeah, I mean, some of it, you know, for this particular project, when well, first of all, I wouldn't be the one to do this. So this is like outside of my scope. I don't build reservoirs. So, what it would have to be a relationship between the county and the large landowners to say, okay, like we're actually going to try to do a big project like this. I think we started these conversations during like the Victorino administration, and at that time, a project of this scale, they were talking about like $15 million. So this is a large infrastructure project. This isn't just, I mean, I don't expect KCA to be able to raise funds amongst yourselves to do this. But $15 million, it's really actually not that much money if we think about our annual budget every year is $1 billion.
Right. And am I correct in assuming that the ranches, I mean, you're gonna need right-of-way agreements to do that?
So you probably need an easement for a reservoir, and then an easement for the black line, the pipe going from the wastewater treatment facility up to feed the reservoir. But the nice thing about this is that it'd be much cheaper than installing the purple pipe along Pilani Highway that has to be buried in the ground. This would just be a high-density polyethylene pipe that lays on the surface, and so much easier. Like no permits, just lay the pipe, and we're off to the races. So in that respect, much easier to do. But then the pink or whatever color that is, purple, that could just be on the ranches to install that internal irrigation infrastructure themselves.
And I know the ranches are part of the foundation, so I assume the ranchers are all on board with this?
Yeah, I think for them, they've had to, well, I would say, and I don't represent the ranches, so I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I think for them, they see the axis deer as like an existential threat to their operations, their cattle operations, but then also just the fact that they no longer have vegetation on their ranches. So when these Kona storms hit, they see all the soil loss. That's affecting them. That's affecting their ability to operate as ranches. So certainly they support the use of the R1 to mitigate for all that axis deer damage.
And how does this interface with this project that Cook is proposing?
I'm not sure that I'm familiar with.
No? Okay.
With Top Cook's project.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Question back here?
Well, she kind of answered it, but
You basically talked about, the funding of it, and this sounds like very important work that you're doing. Do you know anything about future funding and where that money's going to come from? It sounds like it's way beyond what our county is able to budget for.
Well, I don't want to speculate about where if we knew that there was a federal opportunity for money, we would certainly be trying to pursue it. And so these are infrastructure projects. And so it's probably better for Valley County or the state or someone like that to go after these big ticket, big numbers, right? Certainly not our one-year-old nonprofit. And so we're basically, our pilot project is a way for us to advocate for municipalities, for the county or for the state or whomever, to go after these larger R1 infrastructure projects. But ultimately, I think that we have to stop injecting our waste R1 water. And Robin was a big part of that fight. And so she could probably speak more to, like, at a certain point, like, they lost the Supreme Court case, and we have to stop injecting it at a certain point. So there's going to have to be a lot of new R1 reuse that offsets that injection volume.
I would just like to bring up, again, a lot of work to do. Still a lot of work to do. While there is a permit being written right now for West Maui, and what that permit will do is put limits on how much pollution can be in that water. And so that encourages the R1 use, because otherwise you have to do a lot more treatment. In Kihei, there is no NPDES permit yet happening. So when I say speak up, it's like West Maui's had a lot of money put into watershed planning. West Maui's had a lot of money put into getting a permit for the injection wells. What about South Maui? You know, it's our turn, and we also have the big flooding problem with the mud floods that I haven't really seen. I mean, I know in the past there were some problems, but maybe that's where the watershed funds helped. But yeah, so we need to speak up and say we want our wastewater to not be injected. We want it to be regulated by an NPDES permit, and that will tilt the scale, because if you're going to have to spend, you know, say 45 million to continue injecting, well then 15 million to reuse it on land doesn't sound like such a bad deal, right? So we need to speak up and say, why is our stormwater not regulated? Why is our wastewater not regulated? And because it will benefit our community if it is taken, you know, all the water, if all the water is taken care of better.
Thank you.
And just, it's amazing how things happen, right? But if you join the South Maui's Voice team, you will actually have an opportunity to provide testimony and emails. Tom Cook, who is our county council member for South Maui, is in charge of the infrastructure and water committee of the county council, right? So he's very involved in what's happening with the R1 water and a whole bunch of other things, right? And we at KCA talk with him regularly on some issues. So you will have an opportunity, by being on the team, you will get the contact info, and you can just email any of the people that we have on our list at any time and just say, hey, how about this, or what about this, or whatever, and sometimes they'll get back to you.
Auntie back there has been so patient.
That was a good answer.
Thank you.
So the gentleman in the front, I think his name is Vernon.
Yeah.
Vernon.
Okay, Vernon. Vernon, you mentioned that there were resorts in North Kihei that were already using R1 water. So how did that happen? In view of the fact that we're looking at so many problems getting it extended to South Maui.
I don't know when it happened, but Lokilani School and Key Elementary School was the guinea pigs back in the day. You know, they came one day and they opened the water up with the glass and they said, hey, you can drink them. So I said, yeah, try drink them. So they never drink them, right? So we were the guinea pigs. We used a lot of it for a long time, but during that time, I don't know how the lines made its way down by Kaho'oulu, Kulani Hako'i Road. So all by Maui Sunset, all that beachfront area, all the way to Koa Lagoon, they have R1. And then upside where the future North-South Collector Road will be built, there are lines on that road back there too. So some of those housing might have access to it upside.
Thank you, Vernon.
All right, thank you. We're gonna wrap it up now. And if everyone, you can see the kind of work Michael is doing can make a big difference for the future of South Maui. Everyone can see that, right? He's doing a pilot project, but this is going to make a difference. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, we are are about to wrap up. I'd like to remind you that you can join the South Maui Voice team and get more information about how to make a difference. The Maui Food Bank bring cans when we have meetings. And then finally, happy holidays. Everyone have a good time. Thank you very much.
This